This photograph, Justice in Repose, sells for $3,000 unmounted, unframed. Today we're going to talk about what goes into making one of my photographs and the costs associated with production. My name is Rachel Stern. Welcome to my studio. I am a photographer working currently in Harlem, New York. When we're thinking about one of my pictures, there's kind of a few categories to think about. My prop collection is the result of like a lifetime of hoarding, and I use the same props again and again. One of the things that I always like to keep in mind is that in photography, you don't have to transform the object, you have to transform the way it looks for a portion of a second. Honestly, I've probably owned this collection of fabric for 7 or 8 years. A lot of it is bought from fabric salvage places. I usually buy about 4 yards. That seems to be enough for me to either use it for a costume or a backdrop, depending on the circumstance. In big cities, you can also usually find like wholesale jewelry distributors, and these really cost like between $1 and $6 a piece. I've used this chain as jewelry, but I've also used it as parts of props, or faking parts of architecture even. Then for things like my gloves, which I use in almost every single picture I make and have in many different colors. I try and keep candles lit only when I'm actually shooting with them so that they get as much life as possible. Seed pods, sticks, and things like this cost $0. This was the sword that I used in that photograph. Literally a $1.99 sword. There's a little table in that photograph that I use that's actually broken. So there's definitely a lot of like bubble gum and thumbtacks and pulling things together. I will just say that it's also a good idea to be critical about what you need to save and be willing to throw stuff out, because storage is also money. All right, let's talk about camera equipment that I've used to put my photographs together. Knowing what you want before you spend a lot of money is always a good idea. I buy all of my gear refurbished. You know, I think in the end I probably spent $1,500 on this body. The lens is separate. A couple years ago I invested in this lens. It was very scary and it changed my work. I also really recommend investing in a good, steady, strong, but lightweight tripod. Those are things that are really worth spending the money on. And it's also almost like buying your own business. So these are strobes. I started with one, then I bought a second light, and then I bought a third light. And then honestly, you can go to like a home improvement store and buy silver dish clip lights and good bright bulbs. One of the best pieces of lighting equipment, this is actually a photograph of mine that got damaged, and I just used the back of it. And all of a sudden I'm able to bounce and reflect a huge amount of light. So I'm going to be doing my makeup for a character that I've been developing and photographing. So here I go. You think this will protect me from being stained red for a week this time? I've only ever photographed a stranger once. Everyone else you'll find in my work is a friend or a family member or a colleague or myself. And so I'm not paying for any of that. All of my photographs are editions of 3, but there are 2 what we call artist prints, meaning they're mine to give to a friend. So if I'm photographing my cousin for Justice in Repose, and I want to thank her for being in my photograph, I could give her one of my 2 artist prints. All right, should we do some photography? It's really hard to pick a starting price, but the best thing you can do is track records of how things have been priced that you feel like are people who are your peers. If you start your work at a value too high, you can give people a discount. I think trusting who you are and what you care about and believing that that is valuable and interesting and not looking for some sort of external source is a really good pathway to making meaningful photographs. You don't get to be a photographer if you haven't made pictures. Make them all the time. And if you take pictures of things that you care about, other people will care about them.